They always said I was lucky. No husband, no kids, no one tugging at my sleeve asking for snacks or money or attention, just peace. That's how my mother Elaine liked to say it. Judith's lucky she'd beam across the dinner table. She's got her own place, her job, nothing tying her down. Must be nice. I'd smile. Not because it was nice, but because no one wanted to hear otherwise. My sister Melissa, well, Melissa was the shining one. Married to Todd for 18 years, 2 children, a big house with white columns and solar panels. A Labrador named Sunny. Her refrigerator was covered in art projects and soccer schedules. Mine held nothing but a postcard from Florence and an overdue coupon for carpet cleaning. At family dinners, Melissa always had the spotlight. Mason scored a goal. Chloe won the spelling bee. Todd got promoted. Mom would clasp her hands and say, "We're just so proud." Dad Rick would nod mouthful, grunting approval. Then there was me. I brought the wine, helped clean up, paid for the broken garbage disposal last Christmas without being asked. They said thank you, of course, but always with the same tone you'd use for a helpful neighbor, not a daughter. I know it's short notice, Mom would say, but the electric bill this month, Rick's retirement check got delayed. Just this once. Or Melissa's got her hands full, Judith. Could you help with Mason's soccer fees? He's really taken to the sport. And I always said yes. Quietly. Easily. I made decent money as a healthcare administrator, lived alone in a small condo I'd bought outright at 42. I didn't spend much, didn't travel, didn't complain. The family always had something going on. And I was just stable. "You're the strong one," Melissa said once over the phone. "You've always been so self-sufficient." That's what they called it. Self-sufficient, like it was a character trait instead of a consequence. They never asked what I wanted. Not really. But if they had, I would have told them I wanted to see Florence. I'd dreamt of it since college just once, to walk through Uffizi to see Botticelli's Primavera up close. I'd saved up, looked at tours, bookmarked hotels. And every time I got close, someone needed something. A broken wrist, a lost job, a roof leak. And I told myself it was fine. They were family. That's what we do. That's what I do. But the truth was simpler and meaner. I was easy to forget, so I got used to being useful. Florence had been sitting quietly in the back of my mind for years. It started when I was 19, an art history elective with a professor who spoke of the Renaissance like he'd lived through it. Ever since I'd imagined myself there walking stone alleys, coffee in hand, looking up at frescoes older than the country I lived in. I told myself I'd go by 30, then 35. Then I stopped assigning numbers. There was always something. Dad needed a new water heater. Melissa's basement flooded. Chloe needed tutoring for her math finals, and somehow that meant I sent a check. "I'll go next year," I'd say, folding the paper brochure and tucking it into the same drawer I kept my passport. But this time I didn't say it. I just booked it. Round trip to Florence, 11 days, solo. I didn't mention it to anyone, not because I was hiding, but because I didn't want it questioned, repurposed, or rerouted. It was mine. A few days before departure, Mom called. Her voice was chipper in that way that meant she wanted something. "Hi, sweetheart. Would you mind a quick favor?" I waited. "Melissa and the kids are flying out Thursday just to California. Conference thing for Todd. She's frazzled trying to get everyone packed. Could you drive them to the airport?" Of course I could. I didn't ask questions. I never do. But something about conference didn't quite match the excitement I heard in Melissa's voice when I stopped by that morning to pick them up. Chloe wore flip-flops and a lei made of foam flowers. Mason had a bucket hat and sunglasses 3 sizes too big. Todd looked sunburned before he even left the driveway. I helped load their matching floral luggage into the trunk. One bag had a tag that read, Maui 2023. I almost asked. Almost. But instead, I closed the trunk gently and said, "All set." Melissa gave me a quick air kiss and a distracted thanks, Judith, before hurrying inside with the kids. Todd followed without a glance back. I stood there for a moment, palms on the steering wheel, wondering when I'd become the family valet. Then I shook it off. I had my own plane to catch tomorrow. For once, I didn't have to stay behind. The morning of my flight, I was at the airport 2 hours early, just like the app told me. I clutched my passport and boarding pass like someone might take them away. I wasn't nervous, not exactly, just unused to doing something only for myself. I stood in the economy line watching the buzz of travelers with roller bags and neck pillows. My flight to Florence had a short layover in Seattle, and from there, a long stretch over the ocean. I was fine with that. I'd brought a book I'd never finished. I had window seats both legs. It was enough, and then I heard my name. Not spoken directly, but through a voice I knew too well. "Chloe, stop unzipping your carry-on. We're not even through security yet." "Melissa." I turned my head slowly. There they were. Melissa, Todd, the kids, and my parents. Elaine stood at the front of the priority boarding line, chatting with the attendant like she owned the terminal. Rick leaned on the handle of a sleek black carry-on. Todd adjusted Mason's sunglasses while Melissa bent down to fix Chloe's sandal. They were all wearing the same pale blue shirts with tiny palm trees stitched near the collar. Matching outfits. First class. For a second I thought maybe I'd imagined them, that maybe I was jet-lagged before I even flew. But then I heard my mother laugh. "I still feel bad we couldn't take Judith," she said, shaking her head like she was mourning a vague disappointment. Melissa didn't miss a beat. "Oh, please," she said, rolling her eyes. She wouldn't have fit in. They both laughed. That laughter, it didn't feel mean exactly. Just effortless. Like I'd never really been part of the joke. Like I was a footnote in someone else's story. I turned back toward the economy line and took a slow breath. The woman behind me was digging through her tote for gum. A toddler was kicking the back of my calf with tiny Crocs. The air smelled like coffee and recycled air. I didn't say anything. Not to them. Not to anyone. I just boarded my flight when they called my group, sat down in 24A, and stared at the back of the seat in front of me for most of the ascent. They didn't see me. And they wouldn't have cared if they had. But I saw them. And something quiet but certain shifted in me. I didn't text them from Florence. Not even once. Normally, I was the one checking in. Did Mason's game go okay? How's Mom's knee need me to order more heart meds for Dad? But this time, nothing. And it felt clean. Florence was everything I had pictured and nothing like I expected. The streets smelled like espresso and stone. I walked until my feet ached and then walked more. I stood in front of Botticelli's Primavera and felt the prickle of tears, not because it was beautiful, but because I'd finally let myself be in the room with it. I should have been happy. And most of the time I was. But every night when the sky turned indigo and the bells rang out across the rooftops, I would sit on the tiny balcony of my hotel room with a glass of wine, watching the city flicker and hear Melissa's voice again. She wouldn't have fit in. Not angry, not cruel, just effortless. That was what stayed with me. It wasn't the money. It wasn't even Hawaii. It was the fact that my family could laugh about me, lie to me, leave me behind, and still expect I'd show up the next time someone needed something. I came home a week later. 3 hours after I landed, my phone rang. It was Mom. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, "all sugar and sunshine. How was your trip?" "It was good," I said flatly. "Oh, wonderful. Well, listen, your father and I were wondering if you could help us out just a little this month. Groceries, you know how things are." I let the silence stretch until it hummed. Then I laughed. It wasn't planned. It just came out sharp and hollow. "Groceries," I repeated, "like the ones you bought on your way back from first-class silence." Then a nervous chuckle. "Oh, honey, that was different. Miles. Melissa found a great deal. Just don't," I said. She tried again. "We would have taken you if—" "But you could have," I said. "You just didn't want to." Another pause. "Then we didn't think you'd mind." That more than anything told me everything I needed to know. 2 days later, Melissa called. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity has a pull, even when you know it'll sting. "What do you want, Melissa?" I said, instead of hello. "Oh, so now you're too good to answer your own family?" Her voice was sharp defensive. I smiled without meaning to. "First class must have really spoiled you?" "Oh my God, Judith. Are you seriously mad about that grow up?" "I am growing up," I said. "That's why I'm done taking care of you." She paused. "Just long enough to switch gears. Come on, you know how hard things are for us. You don't have kids. You don't have real expenses. It's different for you. Right, I said. And yet I still paid for Mason's soccer fees last month. Well, yeah. Because you always do, she said like that settled it. Not anymore. Another pause. Then the laugh. Dismissive. Cruel. You're actually serious, she said. Wow. You're really going to let Mom and Dad struggle because you're feeling left out. You selfish little. I hung up. For the first time in my life, I didn't stay on the line to listen to the guilt bloom. It didn't take long for the next wave to hit. Voicemails, texts. One from Mom Judith. I don't know what's gotten into you, but this is not okay. We're family. One from Dad. Be reasonable. Melissa and the kids need your help. You know that. One from Melissa. Wow. You really think you're better than us now? I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I made coffee and sat on the couch in my bathrobe, wrapped in a silence I hadn't known in years. A silence without need, without crisis, without being summoned. But by noon, the tone shifted from guilt to panic. A voicemail from Mom, breathless. Then a text, Judith, please. We have a problem. I rolled my eyes. Another problem. Another fire I was expected to put out. Then it's about the house. That gave me pause. Some stupid thread of me still cared, still responded to the word home like it meant something. So I called. What now, I asked. Her voice wavered. Your father and I. We didn't want to worry you, but things have been tight. We're behind on the mortgage. And you're just telling me now? We didn't want to bother you, she said quickly. But now we need your help, just for this month, to keep us afloat until things settle. I leaned back in my chair. Kind of funny, I said, that you could afford first-class tickets, but not your mortgage. She sighed. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that I said. You didn't think twice about spending money on Melissa's kids. But when it comes to your own daughter, there's nothing left. That's not fair, she snapped. You don't understand what it's like to raise a family. You're right, I said, because instead of having my own, I was too busy taking care of yours. She went quiet. Then softer, Judith. We need you. And that was the truth. Not because they loved me, not because they missed me, but because without me, the whole thing was starting to fall apart. I know, I said, but you'll have to figure it out without me. And this time I didn't feel guilty at all. The days that followed were eerily quiet. No texts, no calls, no sudden emergencies that only I could fix. It was the kind of silence people pay for in spas. I had it for free, and I wasn't giving it back. Then, on the third day, the knock came. Melissa. I didn't rush to the door. I let her knock again. When I opened it, she barged in without waiting. What is wrong with you? She snapped, tossing her purse onto my kitchen counter like it lived there. Excuse me. You know exactly what I'm talking about, she said. Mom is losing her mind. Dad's freaking out. And I'm stuck dealing with all of it because you've decided to throw a tantrum. I crossed my arms. You mean you're finally dealing with it for once? She rolled her eyes. Don't be so dramatic. You know they need help. You're just punishing them because you're jealous. Jealous? I laughed. Of what a vacation I paid for in groceries and braces over 10 years. She shook her head. This is about Maui. You're mad because we didn't invite you. I took a breath. It's not about the trip, Melissa. It's about years of being the one who keeps this family afloat while all of you act like I don't exist unless there's a bill to pay. That's not true. Isn't it? I asked. When was the last time Mom called just to check in? Or Dad asked how I'm doing? The only time my phone rings is when someone needs something. And I let it happen because I thought that's what family does. I looked her in the eye, but standing there watching you all laugh in that boarding line, I realized I was never part of this family. I was just your safety net. Her mouth opened, closed. For once, she had no answer. She grabbed her purse. Fine. Do whatever you want, but don't come crawling back when you realize what a mistake you've made. I smiled. Don't worry. I won't. She slammed the door. A week passed. Then 2. That's when Denise, a mutual friend, messaged me. Hey, Judith, I know I shouldn't get involved, but You should see this. It was a screenshot from a group chat Melissa was in with her friends. Judith is such a fool. Just watching us suffer like we deserve it. She doesn't care about anyone but herself. I had to drain my savings just to keep Mom and Dad afloat, and guess what? They're still drowning. We can't keep doing this. And Todd's pissed. He says it's their fault for relying on Judith in the first place. I read the messages twice. Not because I didn't believe them, but because some part of me still hoped I'd misread the tone. But there it was. They weren't hurting because I abandoned them. They were hurting because they couldn't use me anymore. The call came a week later. Unknown number. I almost let it ring out, but something in me, it wasn't hope exactly, just habit, told me to answer. Judith, my father's voice. I hadn't heard it in over a month. What do you want? I asked. He sighed. We need to talk. We really don't. Enough is enough, he said, slipping into that tone he used when I was 12 and grounded. You've made your point. But this is getting ridiculous. I leaned against the kitchen counter. Ridiculous. This whole thing, you cutting everyone off over a stupid vacation. There it was. Even after everything, that's what he thought this was about. This isn't about Maui, I said quietly. It's about the years I spent sacrificing for a family that never once appreciated it. That's not true. Then why wasn't I invited? I asked. Why was I left behind without even a conversation? He didn't answer. After a pause, he tried again. Look, your mother's been crying over this. She just wants things to go back to normal. So do I said. But your version of normal is me writing checks and being grateful for scraps of affection. That's not what this is. Then why are you calling me now? I asked. Why didn't you call last week or the week before? Why is it always when you need something? Another long pause. I don't know what you want from us, Judith. Nothing, I said. That's the whole point. He exhaled sharply. Melissa's struggling. Todd's talking about selling the house. The kids don't understand what's happening. Not my problem. Be reasonable. I am, I said calmly. For the first time in my life, I'm being completely reasonable. Silence. Then his voice turned cold. So that's it. You're just walking away. I didn't even flinch. You walked away first, I said. At the airport, remember. He hung up. That was the last time I ever heard from my father. I didn't block them right away. For a while, I just let the silence stretch. No responses, no forwarding addresses, just space. And they filled it with panic, then guilt, then silence of their own. A month passed. I heard from a neighbor that Melissa and Todd sold their house and moved into a smaller one across town. Mom and Dad downsized too, left the big colonial behind for a one-bedroom near the highway. None of them called again. Not because they made peace, because they finally realized I meant it. I didn't send flowers. I didn't send checks. I didn't send explanations. Instead, I bought a new couch. I painted my kitchen yellow. I signed up for a ceramics class on Thursdays and spent long evenings shaping clay into things that held their shape. I went to Japan in the spring, learned how to order coffee in 3 dialects, spoke only when I felt like it. My paycheck went to books, to good sheets, to long walks in cities that had never heard of me. And not once did I feel guilty for spending my own money on my own life. I didn't owe them my success. I didn't owe them my time. And I didn't owe them my forgiveness. They never apologized. They never even asked why I stopped answering. Maybe they knew. If you've ever left without saying a word just to see if anyone noticed, you're not alone.